Today I want to do one simple thing, and I hope you'll indulge me. Today I want to shame and ridicule the once great but now awful band Black Flag. This kind of video isn't easy to make because Black Flag are one of the most important bands in the history of punk, but their behavior these days is both sad and funny. They are easily the most cringe band out there right now. If you don't know what they've been up to, buddy, strap in, you're not ready. I'm Dan Frampton. Hit like, press subscribe, and let's make fun of a senile septuagenarian. First, some context. If you don't know who Black Flag are, I have no idea how you ended up on this video. But either way, I'll hit you with a speed run. Black Flag are one of the earliest punk bands and are credited with popularizing a more hardcore approach to touring and making music. They formed in the mid-70s in Hermosa Beach, California. You may know them as Henry Rollins' band, but Hank wasn't their first singer. That distinction goes to the one and only Keith Morris, who would go on to form the Circle Jerks and later, Off. This video will not be about either of those iconic gentlemen. Today's video will center around the guitar player, the man who owns the Black Flag copyright, Greg Ginn. Greg liked to make and modify and sell radios back in the day. He used to scrawl SST on his products, which stood for solid state transmitters. After Black Flag started catching on, Greg turned SST into a record label to release their material. And when I say back in the day, I mean Greg was 12 years old when he started that business. He was much more industrious back then. Black Flag was starting to get pretty big by the end of the 70s. Greg was running Black Flag like a military battalion with how many shows and rehearsals he was running. Keith wasn't cool with how rigorous and intense the schedule became, so he was replaced by a guy named Ron Reyes. Ronnie didn't last long in the role, quitting mid-set because the atmosphere was too violent and chaotic for him. He was quickly replaced by their most well-known singer, Henry Rollins. With Rollins in the band, they released 6 full-length records. By 1986, they were burnt to a crisp, and Black Flag called it quits. Black Flag would reunite in 2003 for a few shows, but the 2013 reunion marks their more prominent return. That year, Black Flag not only came back to playing live shows, they also came back with new music. That new music would be the critically and commercially panned LP called What The. With this new 2013 lineup, Ronnie Reyes was chosen to be the singer, and that proved to be another terrible call. Ron would leave the band, again, mid-set, again, this time due to his behavior. He was acting like a dick or whatever, so the band's manager at the time, pro skater Mike Vallely, kicked him out of the band mid-performance. Mike would replace Ron as the singer going forward from here. During all of this, Greg owned the Black Flag name, but audience cared more about the other members of the old lineup. So Keith Morris and Bill Stevenson would basically start up a Black Flag cover band going by the name Flag. That version of the band would be the more popular choice among concert goers. 1 year later, in 2014, Greg was accused by his wife of child abuse. Now, I'm here all these years later to accuse him of basically the same thing. That's a joke for all you media illiterate slapnuts in my comments who haven't discovered humor yet. You see, Greg is back at it again, out there with Black Flag. This time, no Henry Rollins, no Keith Morris, no Ronnie Reyes. Hell, this time, Mike Vallely was told to stay at home. Greg had something special up his sleeve. At the ripe old age of 71, Greg decided to fill the Black Flag roster with Zoomers, literally with a bunch of 20-somethings. Max Zanelli is the new singer, coming in at a whopping 22 years of age. She is basically 50 years Greg's junior. What the fuck is going on out here? Next up, we got Bryce Weston playing the part of Chuck Biscuits on the drums. Bryce is also clocking in at a lean 22 years of age. Finally, we got David Rodriguez, who somehow happens to be even younger than everybody else, coming in at just 21 years of age. Just old enough to play the venues that they're booked to play. How does one man burn every bridge in his life so hard? The bridges are so crispy that when he starts back up his iconic punk band for the millionth time, no one wants to be a part of it. So he fills the lineup with people that are younger now than he was back when Black Flag was originally relevant. None of my criticism of Black Flag falls on the new members. They're super young and this could be a great opportunity for them to get out there. They all seem like pretty cool people and I wish nothing but success in their creative endeavors. My ire is more directed to Greg Ginn. This man's drive and approach to making music is what made Black Flag a force of nature in the early 80s, but he's been messing with the band's legacy since the late 80s. Black Flag should be remembered for their original recorded material. They made EPs and LPs that would inspire and reshape the entire world of underground punk and hardcore. They should be revered for how they pioneered and normalized the DIY tour grind. They should be regarded as one of the most high-energy, ferocious bands of all time with the visual art to match. Instead, they're known for decades of mismanagement and internal drama. Greg not only seems so sad and desperate with this new iteration of the band, he also comes across as malicious and manipulative. That's just my opinion though. Allow me to explain. First, let's address the manipulation claim. I believe Greg is using his power dynamic over these poor young musicians. The dynamic between them cannot be natural. He's old enough to be their grandfather. Literally. And I don't mean that hyperbolically. The man is 50 years older than his bandmates. If it's not manipulative, it's at least weird and creepy. Maybe not in a sexual way, but it still seems kind of predatory. It's like he's one of those aging Hollywood starlet archetypes in fiction that just wants to siphon the youth from the new gens. Or it's like he's the witch in Hansel and Gretel and he's just lured these kids into his candy house just to shove them into a fire. Yeah, that seems like a more apt analogy. Poor kids are getting Hansel and Greteled out here and we hate to see it. Now let's discuss how it feels like the other M, malicious. It seems to me that Greg is even further burning the bridges of all his former bandmates and collaborators. It's like he's spitting and pissing directly on them. Greg deserves his flowers for writing and arranging the songs, of course. But performers like Bill Stevenson, Chuck Biscuits, Des Cadena, Kira Rosler, Keith Morris, and Henry Rollins are what made Black Flag. Greg filling those slots with children is basically him saying to all those legends, hey, you don't matter, I can get kids to replace you. And in one way, he's right. He technically did do that. The only problem is, it's making people like him even less, if that's even possible. If people want to see Black Flag in the year 2026, they can definitely do that, bro. But it seems like every time Greg tries to pull this weird shit, those other performers that I just mentioned will get together in one formation or another to counter-program him with their version of a band called Flag, which I love to see. For your entertainment, I'm going to compare both modern iterations of the band for you. First, here's Black Flag as it should be, as a bunch of old dudes who basically created punk. This is Flag playing Rise Above from May 2025. Wasn't that great? Now, let's see what Greg's Daycare came up with. As a cover band, I love it to be honest, but seeing Greg up there with them just gives me the ick, bro. This shit is so weird and gross. He's not just older, he's fucking 50 years older. If he owns the Black Flag IP, there's gotta be a less embarrassing way to make money off of it. And it's not just one show he did with these kids. They're on tour, man, and you can go see them if you're A, curious, or B, stupid. If the 2013 run didn't ruin their legacy, this little stunt surely has. What a way to go out. But that's just my take, of course. I'm definitely more interested in what you guys are thinking about this whole debacle. I'd love to hear any argument in favor of this. I need a good laugh today. Okay, thanks for watching or whatever.